There are some people that I missed in sports media, and Paul Pierce, the truth, is absolutely one of them because some of the quotes and comments that you get from Paul Pierce are just absolute gems. And let's face it, he's a true lifelong bleeds green Celtic till the day he dies. So he's always going to have a lot of pro Boston Celtics takes. Well, his most recent quote is saying that Jayson Tatum is the best American player in the world. Now, to say that Jayson Tatum's top 5, to say Jayson Tatum's top 10, that's discussions we've had before. And it's gotten a little bit convoluted at the top when you think about international superstars and how many of them make up the top 5 currently. But when I think about best American players, it makes me wonder, is Jayson Tatum actually Captain America? What say you, Kyle?
This is actually interesting. I hadn't considered this until the possibility came up. Jayson Tatum is in my book, either the 3rd or 4th best American basketball player. And there can be debates about 2, 3, and 4, but number 1 is Mr. number 30 with the Golden State Warriors. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. It is Mr. Stephen Curry. Basically, there are 4 players who, regardless of what order you put them in, 1 through 4, they're the first tier. It's Jokic, it's Giannis, it's Steph Curry, and it's Joel Embiid. In some combination or some order, those are the 4 best players in the NBA. So if you want to have the conversation about who's a top 5 player in the NBA, you've got one spot between like 5 or 6 tier 2 players. Now, personally, I'm a Devin Booker guy. Devin Booker is the 5th best player in the world as of right now in my book. But Devin Booker, by the way, from Michigan. So Devin Booker is the number 2 American player in my book. And then you've got a running tab of players between LeBron James, Jayson Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic. There's a handful of guys that are also in that group between like 5 and 8 that are like tier 2 guys that all are different ages and groups and different stages of their career. So Devin Booker, Jayson Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that's the group of guys who could be vying for the 2nd best American player in the world. But number 1 with a smoking gun is Mr. Steph Curry.
Wait, I thought Shai actually is international, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he played on like Team France confused. Or something.
It's confusing. He's born in Canada, but he spent most of his life in America. It's very confusing. But, you know, it's like saying Joel Embiid playing for Team USA, but I didn't count him as an American player. It's all very convoluted and confusing. But if you want to say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes for Canada, then I guess he's not in that group, but like it gets complicated and confusing. But yes, technically he is born in Canada. So if you want to take him off the list, it's a battle between Devin Booker, Jayson Tatum, and LeBron James. If we want to classify Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as Canadian, then that's the group that's kind of battling it out for the 2nd best American basketball player.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of the old guys, and what came in mind is if you're starting a franchise today, I still think that Jayson Tatum would be the answer because Jayson Tatum's still only, 28 years old?
No, he's younger than that. No, Devin Booker is 27, I want to say. So I think Jayson Tatum's 25 or 6.
It's just crazy because obviously, we think about how long he's been in the league. I mean, he'll always be just 19 for me personally, but Jayson Tatum, you compare him against Devin Booker, right? Devin Booker, his career obviously turned around whenever Chris Paul got infused with the Phoenix Suns. But Jayson Tatum, from the first point when he entered the league, has been in a position where his team has been competing for titles, has been competing at the top of the Eastern Conference every single year of his career. And while I still give Jayson Tatum the edge over Devin Booker, is because, again, to ask a rookie to be one of the leading scorers on a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals is not an easy ask. When I think about Devin Booker and some of his early career challenges before Chris Paul got to Phoenix, I still hold a little bit of that against him. Now, I'm not going to question his elite scoring ability. Obviously, this guy has put up 70 points and multiple other like high-level scoring efforts throughout the course of his career. But I also have seen, and Jayson Tatum's not free of this either, he's shrunk in key playoff moments as well. But I feel like I've seen it more consistently with Devin Booker than I've seen it with Jayson Tatum throughout the course of both their career. If, let's say I just go off the last 3 years, I feel as though Jayson Tatum in the playoffs, I have more confidence in than Devin Booker in the playoffs. And I feel like that's been reflective of how far each of their teams advance in their respective runs. Obviously, very similar in the sense they've both been to one finals, they both lost one finals. But Jayson Tatum, when you compare how many trips to the Eastern Conference Finals versus Devin Booker in the Western Conference Finals, currently Jayson Tatum is obviously lapping him in that respect. So I still think Jayson Tatum, I agree with Pierce here. I think he is the best American player as of today when I consider who would you want to invest in your franchise move forward, because Steph Curry, what has he got? Maybe 3 to 5 years left in his career. LeBron James, maybe 2 to 3, probably in that range.
Steph Curry might be on the upper end of that 3 to 5. Like, his game is going to age very gracefully, I would presume. And he's 33 right now, I want to say. So, I mean, Steph as a high level NBA player probably has like 5 years left of being the best player on a team that has a chance of winning a championship. Now, granted, Golden State has not put him in the best position to win another championship, but under the best, Steph Curry's still one of the 4 best players in the world right now. So like, there's not much of a, Steph Curry's going to be an all-star caliber NBA player until the end of his career. The end of his career might be 5 years away, might be 7 years away, but for him as like one of the 5 best players in the sport, I mean, 3 to 5 years probably is where we're looking at for Steph Curry at this point.
You know what I found interesting, though, about the names you listed off in American-born players, and mostly because of you, like talking to you over the years, so a name that you consistently like to bring up, you didn't mention Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant not like in your top 5 anymore? Like, how do you evaluate him?
Kevin Durant is the best number 2 in the NBA at this stage of his career. Like, the Phoenix Suns go as Devin Booker goes. If Kevin Durant's the one leading this Phoenix Suns team, they get bounced in the first round. They get bounced in the second round. I mean, part of it is injuries and part of it is age, but like, I know time gets distorted sometimes on some of these things, but like, Devin Booker's in his 9th NBA season and Kevin Durant's in his 17th NBA season. Like, Kevin Durant being one of the 5 best players in the world isn't a thing that's still there. Like, Kevin Durant's not the one who 2 years ago with Brooklyn is going to be able to get you 48 points, 10 rebounds, and carry them against Giannis. Like, carry the team to what would have been one of the most impressive playoff series wins if his foot is like a half a shoe size smaller on that 3-point shot. Like, I don't think that's the game anymore for Kevin Durant. It's being in year 17 with a torn Achilles. It's him honestly having to be more of an get the ball on the wing and then make moves that way instead of him having the ball in his hands primarily. Like, Kevin Durant is the best number 2 in the NBA at this stage of his career. And fortunately, he plays on a team where he's not asked to be the primary ball handler and run the offense. Because if like he was still playing in Brooklyn this year with Edmund Sumner, as he disrespected last year at the end of his time in Brooklyn, like if he was still there, it would have been like impossibly sad to watch. Like them getting bounced in the first round as Kevin Durant tries his damnedest to just be the focal point of the offense. It would have looked like those first LeBron years in Los Angeles, throw out the season that they won the championship in the bubble. Like that first year when LeBron was getting hurt and trying to carry Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and that team. And then the year after that, where they were the 7 seed because Anthony Davis was out for most of the season and LeBron was just trying his damnedest to carry them. And they lost to, I think they got swept by the Suns in the first round of the playoffs, right? I think it was either 4 or 5. They got smoked out the building by the Suns in 2021. Like that's what it would look like if Kevin Durant didn't have a superstar teammate like Devin Booker playing with him right now. And by the way, we saw it last year when they played together in the playoffs. Like Devin Booker had the highest efficiency rating of any player in the playoffs last year. There was a game, I think it was game 3 when the game before Jokic chicken wing slapped the owner of the Suns, where the Nuggets shot 53% from the field as a team, scored 120 points, and Devin Booker beat them. Devin Booker beat them with a 50-point game in the playoffs. Like Kevin Durant will give them 35 and 40 points because he is still that good, but he won't he won't need to do it every night because they have Devin Booker on that team. Like, that's where I view Kevin Durant in that space. And maybe he's tier 2, maybe he's tier 3. The best thing I described for him is like the best number 2 in the league right now, and still better than Jaylen Brown. That's what I know for sure. Kevin Durant is not as good as Devin Booker, but he is better than Jaylen Brown. So he's somewhere between 5 and 15.
For what it's worth, though, I do think that Jayson Tatum surpassed Kevin Durant in the 2022 playoffs. I think that was the true turning point moment, because obviously we got to see those two go one-on-one against each other. And this is where we start to see Jayson Tatum as a two-way superstar, what he was able to do on the defensive side of the ball against Kevin Durant. And I think that started to turn a lot of heads as far as like what his full potential could be as a player, because a lot of people were comparing him in that run to the finals to what Kawhi Leonard was at points in his career on both sides of the ball, what he was able to do offensively and defensively, and his ability to shut down Kevin Durant in that matchup was something that I think set Jayson Tatum apart and set him up for future success. I think another separating factor maybe for Jayson Tatum is I feel as though he's legitimately in the MVP discussion versus Devin Booker, which I don't know if he's legitimately in the MVP conversation in the same way. I don't think that people are talking about Devin Booker as an MVP candidate like they're talking about Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum currently averaging 28.4 points a game. I think what Jayson Tatum would have to do is something like historic, like be over 30 points a game this season if he wants to do that, especially because, you know, Nikola Jokic still putting up those crazy efficient numbers that I'm sure all the sabermetrics are going to like pull in his favor for. So Jayson Tatum has to do something almost groundbreaking in terms of a points per game average, I feel as though, to take the MVP award. Something also that's kind of caught my attention in thinking about this discussion, as far as you mentioned off the top 5 American born players, even getting into that second tier, if Jayson Tatum, Steph Curry, LeBron, Kevin Durant, obviously we have a lot of old guys here, Devin Booker, are all in our like top 5. We probably get into like Anthony Davis, a guy like Ja, maybe Zion Williamson on kind of like that second rung of guys as well, Donovan Mitchell. It makes me wonder how the Team USA, like the true Team USA, I'm not talking about like Joel Embiid, who with obviously his dual citizenship, but the true Team USA versus the international would actually do competitively, because you mentioned again the international top 5, which is Giannis, Luka, Jokic. I guess, again, we could talk about Shai potentially. You know, that's already looking like an imposing starting 5 versus the USA starting 5. Who would you take today, like in that world versus USA starting 5?
There were whispers about this being an all-star game format at some point, which I don't think is going to work, because you got to get the equal representation of conferences and teams. If you're giving me the rest of the world, I'm still going to take the American team for the time being, because you can go into your Damian Lillards and your De'Aaron Foxes and your Donovan Mitchells and your Kawhi Leonards and your Paul George. There's just a level of depth that exists in the American game right now comparatively versus the international. I mean, there's, again, the NBA, I believe right now is over 40% players from other countries and 6 different continents at this point. So there's kind of an equal split between the two. And like you mentioned, you can get Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, the last 5 MVPs of the league. You got Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic. The last 5 MVPs would be on your international team.
And Luka.
Luka
Potentially this year's MVP, for all we know.
Yeah, Luka might win this year. You're absolutely right. Luka has a case. I mean, it's 9 games into the season, so I haven't like taken too much into the like nerd stats yet of like efficiency rating and win shares tell you who the most valuable player in the league is. Because like I think Tyrese Maxey is like 3rd in those rankings right now. Like it's way too early in the season for sample sizes to tell us who the MVP is going to be. But Jayson Tatum is absolutely in that conversation, because if he's ever going to be the best player in the world, it's going to start right about now. This is when he enters his physical prime. He's in year 7, and around year 9 is when you can stop guaranteeing good health being something that's a guarantee for the average NBA superstar. I mean, LeBron James is an aberration, obviously, of the highest level when it comes to health, and we've expected strange things from him. But Steph Curry missed basically an entire season at age 30 back in 2020. the Kevin Durant tore his Achilles at 32 years old. Like, this is the age where Devin Booker is not a guarantee to be healthy anymore. He's been out to start the season already for the Suns. Like, it's never a guarantee with some of these things anymore. So this is Tatum's window to potentially ease the transition into the next era, right? Because like Giannis is exiting his prime, Embiid is exiting his prime. You could argue that Jokic is exiting his prime, although I wouldn't go that far because Jokic is shockingly only 28 years old, despite the fact that he looks like he's just gonna fall apart any day now, and he's been around for like 4 years. But Jokic is only like a year older than Devin Booker somehow. But these players that have represented the previous era are exiting out, and the young guys aren't quite ready to take the mantle yet. We've seen all the shit that's happening with Ja Morant. Anthony Edwards is trying his damnedest, man, but he's only 22 years old. It's not Ant Edwards' time yet. And Luka's probably the player of the future era. So you're somewhere in between group of the new guys with Luka and Ja and Anthony Edwards, and the old guys, in air quotes old, of Giannis and Embiid and Anthony Davis, who 2 years from now we're not going to think about as MVP guys anymore. So maybe this is Jayson Tatum's turn to swipe an MVP in the in-between. Maybe it's Devin Booker's turn to potentially lead a team to a championship. You know, these are the players who are trying to step up as the league goes through the transition years. And I think Team USA is still going to win that USA versus world matchup, because in that transition period, you've got star Devin Booker, star Jayson Tatum, and then you still got Steph Curry, you still got Kevin Durant, you still got Donovan Mitchell, you've still got Paul George, you've still got Kawhi Leonard, you've still got De'Aaron Fox, you've still got LeBron James. There's so many dudes in that like tier 3 of star, like guys who you pencil in for the All-Star game every year. There's still so many guys in that group. Hell, even Zach LaVine is an American player who you can pencil in for the All-Star game every year. Jaylen Brown is in that group. Like you start going down the list and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of All-Star caliber players on so many different teams that happen to be born in America. And Tatum and Booker have kind of separated themselves from that group. It used to be like, I used to say, and you've laughed at me for this, I used to say Donovan Mitchell was better than Jayson Tatum. That's a thing that I used to believe, and that's clearly not true anymore. So, you know, there's a couple that have separated themselves, but there are just so many all-star players all bouncing around throughout the NBA.
What do you think? Did Paul Pierce tell the truth? Is Jayson Tatum the best American-born NBA player? Like to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias from Juju and Kyle. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.